He murmured, Hongling, red intestines. You're Xiao Huwei's sister, right? Asked about Xiao Huwei again. Why didn't he come? Xiao Honglin looked down, feeling dejected. Cousin. At this moment, Chang Xianting spoke up. Are you from the Xiao family of Qingshan Mansion? Xiangli fell silent upon hearing this. After a moment, Xiao Honglin replied, I am Xiao Honglin of the Xiao family. Upon hearing this, Chang Xianting began to ponder. He quickly cupped his hands and complied. Afterward, Chang Xianting ordered Wei Tao to step down. He remained seated in the sedan chair. Snakes of the taste division stood all around. For a moment, the atmosphere became tense. His expression turned tense. Chang Xianting snorted coldly and said, considering your merit in capturing the demon this time, I'll deduct 6 months of your salary as punishment. Lu Xicha observed Wei Tao after hearing this, and also breathed a sigh of relief. At this moment, a voice of reproach from Chang Xianting came from the side. It was quite unpleasant. You dare to foster evil in exchange for the taste of a dog. Wei Tao, do you know your crime? Wei Tao was left speechless after hearing this. When the gaze turns to Jiangli and the other person, there's a sense of familiarity. I couldn't help but recall, but was taken aback. The practice seems to lack a spiritual seal. This misfortune cannot resolve the skin of grains. Gong Jin pays his respects. Yin Xiaowei angrily reprimands the two. He says that as the authorities of the Weidao division, they shouldn't be yelling and shouting in a restaurant. What kind of conduct is this? He then began to argue with Jiangli. While both sides were in heated debate, they were suddenly interrupted by a deep voice. The newcomer was Yin Xiaowen from the Weidao division. Cheng Chang seized the situation. For a moment, both were speechless. Auntie stared wide-eyed as well, looking at them with an innocent expression. When Wei Tao finally reacted, it felt like a bolt from the blue. He wondered where he got it from. Just as Wei Tao was excitedly preparing to introduce it, a dark shadow suddenly flashed by. In the next second, the flying squirrel was swallowed whole by Gu Gu. At that moment, their eyes met. Flying back and forth around Ching Chang, Wei Tao introduced the bat-like creature as the Shilin flying squirrel. He noted that despite having no face, but it can smell the demonic aura. Ching Chang looked shocked after hearing this. He widened his eyes. He saw a creature slowly crawling out of the bamboo tube. It had no eyes, but it had a nose like a pig's. It moved swiftly, slowly took a bamboo tube out of his sleeve. He said that he relies on this to find the beast. Chang looked at it and couldn't help but ponder. He wondered what was so special about it. But in the next second, it could transform into rocks, and even had the ability to burrow underground. He asked Wei Tao if he had any tips, and if he could teach him. Wei Tao smiled and slowly, after saying that, he filled Wei Tao's glass again. He then continued, explaining that the beast they captured this time was difficult to deal with, but finding them in Yazhou was still somewhat challenging. He was curious how Wei Tao managed to locate that creature. After all, the creature's cultivation was formidable. Then the waiter brought out the chives. The two immediately started drinking. Ching Chang drank it all in one go. He said this job was thanks to Waigoni. Otherwise, our team would still be wandering around in the deep mountains and forests. Don't speak. Have you forgotten all your manners? This is not some remote wilderness. Ching Chang immediately became alert to his surroundings. He wondered if there were snakes here too. He said this task really isn't meant for humans. He indicated that the people above just talk. The people below have to work desperately to figure things out. He wondered why they had to catch those monsters as sacrifices. At this time, Captain Wei Tao said to keep quiet. One of them had their head wrapped in bandages. Clearly, they were injured from the recent capture of the beast. Ching Chang's arrogance was evident. Let the waiter hurry up and bring the good wine and dishes. Then, he smashed the weapon in his hand onto the table. He actually snatched the meat from his hands. At that moment, a quarrel broke out nearby. The shop assistant greeted the guests entering. The two people entering were dressed in luxurious attire. Why isn't he eating anything? She asks Jiang Li for the reason. But Jiang Li's mouth is full of meat. He mumbles, maybe he's just not hungry yet. However, Auntie seems more interested in what Jiang Li is eating. Someone remarked that this was already the 7th monster captured this month, and in a tavern in the city. Auntie looks serious. She dismisses the food that Xiao Honglin offers. Xiao Honglin looks troubled. In the dragon, there was a huge wolf demon. Its forelimbs were tightly locked with iron chains. Came waves of wailing from the crowd. People were discussing among themselves. Everyone was staring intently. Since the young master prepared for the sacrifice, he ordered his subordinates to capture all kinds of monsters in the world. At this time, the city was lively and noisy. A carriage was slowly moving forward, pulling a giant dragon. The guards maintained order around them. At this moment, he calmly asked, "Why do you want to kill me? I never expected you to kill Yan Shui." He then asked if anyone else was watching at that moment. Suddenly, his gaze became sharp. A murderous aura surged towards them. A colossal python coiled around him. It was continuously making hissing sounds. Looking up along the python's body, there was a vague figure sitting within. And this person was none other than Chang Xianteng. Just then, a voice from the side said, "You returned like this." Upon hearing this, he broke out in a cold sweat. His body trembled uncontrollably. With trembling lips, he said, "Mr. Chang, spare me." Before the words were finished, "Tell him not to worry." At this moment, inside a cave, everything was eerily quiet. Lingxi heard the sound of water dripping. She saw someone curled up, kneeling on the ground. From the last incident and his internal energy had not yet restored. He coughed a few times. Xiao Honglin asked him how he was feeling. Jiangli raised the corner of his mouth, indicating that he was fine. He looked down at the spirit beast in his embrace with a doting expression. This spirit beast was the hydrogen bomb from before. Xiao Honglin noticed that it was going to rain. He suggested that they should hurry into the city. At this moment, Jiangli was still recovering. At this moment, Xiao Honglin pointed ahead and said, "Look, that up there is the headquarters of the Yazhou flavor department." Xiao Honglin's thoughts had finally arrived. Just as he was getting ready to rest, he suddenly heard a cooing sound from his arms. However, Chang Xianteng remained silent after hearing this. The young lord gazed at the distant sky, a sense of unease brewing in his heart. A cold wind howled past. A chilling atmosphere permeated the surroundings. He suggested they wait until after the funeral. After the coronation ceremony is complete, those who waver will naturally come to pledge their allegiance. Submit to him. The young lord asked meaningfully, "Has there been any news of Yan Shui?" He said that even those willing to come might not be truly loyal to him. Their temperaments weren't as straightforward as Xiong Lai's. Forget it. Chang Xian comforted him, telling him not to worry. He said at least the commander still commands their respect. Chang Xianteng remained silent. Then they began to talk. The young master said that the summoning order had been issued for over half a month. However, far fewer tiger guards responded to the summons than expected. The young master sighed. When Chang Xianteng was about to order his execution, he heard the young master's voice behind him. He said to wait a moment. He indicated to take him away and lock him up. Watching the Xiong Hui being taken away, although he has endured for a long time, it is entirely futile. Blood keeps flowing from his body. The snake tails around him are watching hungrily, preparing to launch a collective attack. The tiger guard dealt with demons, beasts, and other creatures, while what they dealt with were only humans. Just like Xiong Hui, transcending the mundane, can surpass those of the prison kind. At this moment, Xiong Hui has been fully infected by the deadly poison. As a tiger guard, he used his immense power to dominate the region. But now he is gravely poisoned. Chang Xian once said, "From the beginning, the snake guard was different from them." Unable to hold back, he cursed loudly. The taster vine slammed down. With a cold snort, he ordered, "Take him down." He had once defended the eastern prefecture, resisting the invasion of demons. Immediately after, Xiong Lai felt an intense pain in his chest. He spat out a large mouthful of black blood mist. He was incredulous. He looked at the taster vine. He was surprised that it dared to poison him. As soon as those words were spoken, Xiong Lairan sensed something was wrong. Chang Xianteng explained, "The reason vipers are so dangerous and deadly isn't because of their fangs." That pressure felt like a towering mountain. It left everyone gasping for breath. At this moment, Chang Xianteng slowly spoke, saying that the mountain tiger had been renowned for decades. "We naturally wouldn't dare underestimate you, but your habit of indulging in alcohol hasn't changed all these years. It can also hurt the mountain tiger of Dongjun town." He said he never liked to kill women in his life. He told those ants to hurry and retreat. After saying this, a murderous aura suddenly rose. A powerful pressure enveloped the entire space. There appeared a faintly visible fierce tiger behind him. Its eyes shot out a commanding gaze. He coldly snorted at a few little snakes that should not be seen. "They dare to block the tiger's path. With your rare venomous fangs, it has been nearly a decade. No one dares to draw a blade in front of him." But in the next second, a tremendous force howled in, accompanied by a thunderous roar. Coldly, he said, "No one dares to challenge the Lord. Such a crime deserves punishment." Xiong Lai saw this and couldn't help but burst into laughter. "You must understand, ever since the world has stabilized, a sudden surge of killing intent erupted." Xiong Lai's gaze was like lightning, coldly fixed on Chang Xianteng. Incredulously, he asked, "Do you dare to stop me?" Chang Xianteng's gaze concealed a killing intent. "You want to take my military power? Wait until you obtain the Kirin's legacy, and become a true Kirin before you speak." As the words fell, the attendants around drew their swords with snake-shaped hilts. With a single kick, Treason overturned the table. Standing up, he roared, "Since when did Yazhou Qilin become Shirshis? I have defended the Eastern Commandery for over 30 years. When your father wasn't even a Qilin yet, the Eastern Commandery was already under my control." Xiong Lai, the Emperor is about to take control of Yazhou. He questioned why the valiant Hu Weiqi has not surrendered military power. Is he trying to assert his military strength? Do you have treasonous intentions? The Xionghu guards burst out laughing after hearing this. After the turtle from Hunan left, "You little snakes are becoming more and more unruly." Tang Xianteng mentioned the lesson he taught. He stated that was in the past. But now, the young master has inherited the Qilin position. The maids and servants are all arranged as well. You can just come and enjoy your twilight years. But upon hearing this, Xionglie was full of disdain. He sneered coldly, saying, state affairs are no place for a little snake like you to meddle. You've worked hard all your life guarding the Eastern Commandery, which is a bitter and cold borderland. The young master, now a newlywed, can't bear to see you still working hard in the military at your age. We've already prepared a large mansion for you in the city. And sharp eyes. The clothes he wore highlighted his extraordinary status. He was none other than the Xionghu Guard, defending the Eastern Commandery in Yazhou. At this moment, Xionglie angrily rebuked, you want me to hand over my military power? A voice slowly responded, Lord Xiong, that's too much. It is the location of the General Office of Yanzhou's Flavor Division. Above, an irregular dragon head perches on the wall. It glimmers brightly under the sunlight. At this moment, a person forcefully slams their hand onto the table. He had a serious expression. The little bird has hatched. The cold wind howls. Through the depths of the valley, the atmosphere around feels somewhat eerie. This is the demon suppression domain. It meant, hurry up. The second brother quickly responded after hearing this. At that moment, as dusk descended, the two were heading in the direction of Wei Dao headquarters. Xiao Honglin excitedly said, look. She assured him that she wouldn't hurt him. Then, surprisingly, the black tiger pounced into Zhu Yu's arms like a kitten, seeking affection. The second one was momentarily speechless at this scene. Zhu Yu glared at him. Suddenly, a glimmer of light flashed in her heterochromatic eyes. The black tiger remained calm beside him. With a sturdy demeanor, it watched Zhu Yu warily. Zhu Yu waved her hand, indicating that he shouldn't be afraid. Zhu Yu gave him 3 days. If he was late by a day, they'd take one of Lord Bao's legs, roast it and feed it to the tiger. And the tiger was none other than Lord Bao's mount, Black Tiger. Lord Bao trembled inside when he heard this. He gives an awkward smile. Then, Zhu Yu tells Lao Er to go to the commander. He told him to find the most powerful person for him. The second in command was baffled. He wondered what this was all about. She snorts coldly, and wham, throws the leftover bone at Lao Er's head. She indicates she didn't hit him hard, telling him to stop playing dead. Lao Er gets up, rubbing his head. Zhu Yu remained unconvinced, and disdainfully asked, are there really many capable people in your organization? Master Bao roared, are you scared? Hurry up and get off me. Zhu Yu takes a bite of the chicken leg. If the commander finds out, just wait for the mountain gate to be destroyed. Although the world is vast, there is no place for you to stand. Listening to Master Bao's words, Baoi, looking unconvinced, asks if he knows who they are. Zhu Yu, however, dismisses him, saying it doesn't matter who they are. After all, you started bullying me first. Baoi snorts coldly, saying they are the Wei Dao division. They are the guards of power, overseeing the 12 states. It seemed that the world was destined to experience upheaval. Do you still remember that child with a servant? Beneath the appearance of a child was an incredible strength that didn't match his age. At this moment, Zhu Yu has knocked down Baoi and his 2 companions in the tavern. He claims to be quite tough. Zhuaiqing cupped his fists in respect. Then Yan Shui asked him if he was willing to take his master's place in leading the snake position. He gave a positive answer. Yan Shui then told him to handle a task for the Yaizhou branch before anything else. From this moment on, the short-haired woman replied, reporting to my lord, I have no name. My master has given me the title of Bamboo Leaf Green. Upon hearing this, Yen Snow murmured to herself, let Bamboo Leaf Green come forth. He stated that the future belongs to you young people. Turning to the short-haired woman beside him, he said she is his closing disciple, and has received their true teachings. Yen Snow was taken aback. She then asked, what is your name? He has the will but lacks the strength to handle matters. The elderly man before us is Hu Chanwei, who previously appeared in Lingxu Mountain. He asked in response, are you refusing me? Hu Chanwei fell silent for a moment and said he was already old. He has been abandoned by this era. Yan Shui continued, moreover, you are now in the position of Zen. Before she finished speaking, she was interrupted by the old man. He sighed, saying that he had long since turned to the Zen department. But in these years, he had not managed any affairs. And he is getting old. Restore the former glory. Please ask him to consider the friendship my father had in the past. Do not decline. The old man fell silent after hearing this. He sighed and said that in the past, Brother Yen had saved his life. Out of both sentiment and reason, he shouldn't decline. Yet now they have fallen to such a state. Like prisoners, they wander in the abyss. This reflects the current state of turmoil in the world. The realm is on the brink of chaos. I ask Uncle Hu to take back the reins. Ask Yan Shui to give her orders. Yan Shui said he founded Shiwei 25 years ago. Back then, everyone feared Shiwei. Each one was personally selected by him. They can be considered outstanding talents. Yan Shui sighed. It seems the world is about to fall into chaos again. At this moment, Yan Shui looked at the old man and said, Uncle Hu, I have a request. The old man, not daring to neglect, He mentioned that Jiang Li was a cultivator from Lingxu Mountain. After hearing this, Yan Shui mumbled to herself. She was surprised that he was a cultivator. She said they probably hadn't entered the mortal world for over 20 years. The old man accurately replied, 25 years. Even though he's injured now. Besides, he has done a favor for the Shao family. After hearing about the bloody stool, he was just 1 point away from letting the old man continue speaking. The old man cupped his fists in response. He recounted what had happened earlier at Golden Bird Mountain. Let alone have any influence. He pondered and said, since we know each other, never mind. Then he dropped it. After a moment of silence, the elder continued, actually, if we were to kill this boy, the two of us probably couldn't do it. She immediately countered, do you know him? The short-haired woman remained silent. She instantly knelt on the ground. The old man beside her quickly added, it was just a brief encounter. We don't really know each other. At this moment, Yan Shui asked meaningfully, if you were asked to eliminate that young man, are you confident? The short-haired woman was stunned after hearing this. In that brief moment, the blood tester noticed it. A murderous aura rose from her face. It will be useful when the time comes. Then they exchanged a few parting words. Jiang Li and Xiao Hongling mounted their horses and bid farewell to Yan Shui. The others watched Jiang Li leave, deep in thought. Gradually, the figures of Jiang Li and his companion disappeared from sight. The words written by Yan Shui permitted this person to enter the division. When Xiao Honglin saw it, he was greatly astonished. Yan Shui said, thank you for saving my life. No way to repay. He said they could bring this item to the commander. The Qilin seal briefly shook before instantly enlarging. It was then grasped in Yan Shui's hand. It was as if pressed onto paper. And this was merely a demon-repelling talisman. It was indeed the emblem of the Yazhou flavor division. Then, the blood test stains the hand with blood. Using blood as ink, I wrote as follows. After writing a few large characters, I waved my sleeve. A stream of blood slowly flowed down. The two knelt and held it up, waiting for the blood test instructions. A mist fills the air. It feels somewhat eerie. Yan Shui instructed her subordinate to get paper. One subordinate immediately took out from his chest as Yan Shui recited. Another subordinate then drew a blade. A flash passed through Wang's palm. The turmoil and helplessness in the world are all because of people's insatiable greed. Just then, two figures emerged from the depths of the forest. They were Yan Shui's subordinates. After a brief exchange, but soon, he mimicked the same gesture. Xiao Honglin was confused by the scene before him. Yan Shui told him not to worry, saying they were all her people. At that moment, a golden light from the horizon illuminated the land. But the next second, her blade was blocked by Yan Shui. When Chen Wei saw the jade seal glowing green, his gaze filled with disbelief. He immediately bowed to Yan Shui, honoring the serpent throne. Strangely, his movements, their outfits were slightly different. Clearly belonging to different departments. And as they both stepped out of the mist, Xiao Hongling also recalled who they were. Then she drew her sword, ready to fight. After the figure was detected, it immediately jumped down from the treetop. When he landed, another person's silhouette slowly emerged from the darkness. Xiao Hongling wondered who they were. Just then, not far away, at the treetops, there was a vague figure, dressed in silk garments, with a red mask covering the face. The gaze revealed a hint of ferocity. He is the headmaster of Lingxu Mountain. Before he finished speaking, he was interrupted by Jiang Li. Not far away, a gaze was watching them. After being noticed by Jiang Li, he said someone was coming. After Yan Shui noticed, she let them come out. Then, he looked at Jiang Li in confusion and asked who the young hero was. How should I address him? Xiao Honglin turned to look at Jiang Li. He said he was entrusted by his cousin to accompany him to the headquarters. He reminded Yan Shui not to underestimate him. Was it to participate in this year's Flavor 45 barbecue at the headquarters? He received a positive answer from Xiao Honglin. Yan Shui said that at such a young age, he was quite ambitious. She encouraged him to work hard in the future. He will definitely become a tiger guard like his cousin, and asked how she knew her cousin's name. Then he also said his name. Yan Shui patted his head. She murmured that it was a really good name. She then asked him why he had come here. Are you from the Shao family of Qingshan Prefecture? Xiao Honglin wondered how Yan Shui knew this. Yan Shui said she guessed it, because she looked a lot like Hong Chang. Xiao Honglin was shocked to hear this. He explains that he just woke up and was disoriented. He mistakenly took them for the criminals chasing him. Xiao Honglin snorts coldly and says he actually helped him just now. Yan Shui felt quite pleased after hearing this. Then she asked Xiao Honglin, sister. He keeps coughing. Blood slowly drips from his fingertips. Yan Shui looks at the two people in front of him in surprise. After coming to his senses, he feels sorry for his earlier reckless actions. He then puts down the dagger in his hand. Just now, a sound of sword ringing shattered the silence. Xiao Honglin ordered Yan Shui to stand guard. He asked what he intended to do. And Jiang Li was injured in Yan Shui's dream. The Qilin guards bear a unique responsibility and honor, choosing to offer themselves as a sacrifice, burning out my life, guarding a peaceful realm. Even if it means enduring eternal torment after death, I will not hesitate. He suddenly lunged at Jiang Li, but he was met with Xiao Honglin drawing his sword to block. A sound of sword ringing echoed through the heavens and the earth. Xiao Honglin angrily rebuked Yan Shui, asking what he intended to do, hurriedly steps forward and asks what happened. Jiang Li says he's fine, but Xiao Honglin still looks worried. At this moment, Yan Shui smoothly draws a small knife. The moment he opened his eyes. At that moment, Jiang Li suddenly opens his eyes, feeling a bit startled, then spits out a mist of blood, scattering it in the air. Xiao Honglin is shocked at the sight. Could it be that he tampered with it? He thought, this guy claims to be the general of Lingxu Mountain. Is he not lying? He's about the same age as me. Gradually, his small face began to turn red. A faint aura seemed to emanate from that sword. He felt that it was somehow different from before. Then he retracted the sword into its hilt. He sighed. Looking at Jiang Ling in front of him, the youthful Yan Shui has returned to her original appearance. From the jade seal in her tightly clenched hand, endless chains spread out. A strong scent of blood continued to permeate the air. The power within it instilled fear in people's hearts. At this moment, Xiao Honglin looked thoughtfully at his sword. Do you still seek to control this power? Yan Shui tightly gripped Yushi, silently saying it's his responsibility. It is also ignorance. A moment of glory. Their souls can't be freed. They can only forever become his stone. Forever trapped and entwined together. Yan Shui was asked. After knowing all this, he asked Jiang Li with deep meaning if she would help him. But Jiang Li remained silent. She lowered her head, deep in thought. She turned to look ahead and said, look, even after death. As soon as the words fell, the jade seal instantly shattered into pieces. Clouds of blood mist started spreading outward. A tremendous aura began to surge wildly. Yan Shui snapped out of it. Jiang Li's pupils instantly turned silver. Sei followed up with a firm answer. Yan Shui sighed, saying that the power inside was beyond human control. But if one could control this power, he would no longer be mortal. That he left him the most important thing. And that is the Qilin's legacy. Yan Shui then took out the imperial seal, and asked Jiang Li if he knew what it was. At the moment the seal appeared, he thought Jiang Li was also something he had imagined. But he received a negative response from Jiang Li. Yan Shui pondered for a moment and said, if he is not an illusion, these visions are not entirely fantasies. Because his adoptive father said on his deathbed, falling into such an ending. At this moment, Yan Shui appears as a young girl. He asked, is this the Qilin? Jiang Li paused for a moment and said, this is just an illusion manifested through a dream. Yan Shui, surprised, began to murmur to himself. The sight before him was still too majestic. Yet, there was a sense of sorrow within. The voice of the Qilin guard echoed endlessly in the space, lamenting the ancient true spirit once known for its auspiciousness, now tainted by demonic energy. At the same time, in Jiang Ling's dream, he looked serious, staring ahead, his heart as drained as a Qilin guard. He sighed, even though it was just a remnant in a dream. So, what exactly are they up to? Just then, Jiang Li's eyes caught her attention. His delicate features had her staring intently. His long eyelashes seemed to flutter softly like butterfly wings with each breath. Xiao Hongling thought he actually looked quite nice. Yan Shui's flowing hair dances in the wind. And Jiang Li has been in Yan Shui's dream for a long time. The two have remained in a meditative state. Xiao Hongling watches this scene. For a moment, it felt a bit boring. And the enormous body wrapped in these chains was the Qilin. At this moment, the air is filled with a low, mournful sound. The magical aura of the air seems to want to devour everything. Behind every glamorous facade lies an untold sorrow. At this time, Jiang Li's fingertips rest on Yan Shui's brow. And that endless desire. We will use magic to dispel the demonic energy. Gradually, the head of the Qilin reappeared before us. All I could hear was the sound of chains roaring through the heavens and the earth. Then, the scales became visible. At this critical moment, Jiang Li used magic to dodge to a distance with Yan Shui. Yan Shui wondered why things had turned out this way. He asked Jiang Li what these things were. Jiang Li slowly said, "This is your inner fear." The black mist instantly scattered countless chains. Powerful forces continuously gathered within. Then they transformed into demonic claws. An overwhelming killing intent rushed forward. In an instant, it enveloped Jiang Li. He stared at the Kirin guard in front of him. The Kirin guard's eyes were hollow. The surrounding demonic energy continued to devour outward. In an instant, it felt as if this place was two worlds in the alternation of yin and yang. The Kirin guard muttered about July once again. He firmly grasped Yan Shui's hand. Regarding Jiang Li's arrival, Yan Xuan was also surprised. Then came the descent. His gaze was deep. Among these forces, there was an endless aura of slaughter. It left people feeling terrified. Just as the chains locked onto Yan Shui, these chains were unexpectedly shattered by a surge of power. Jiang Li slowly emerged. At this moment, Eve asked him to sign the contract. A bloody smell emanated from the bathing seal. As the demonic energy surged forth, chains began to emerge from within. A powerful force continuously erupted from within. That jade seal also emitted a blood light. A surge of overwhelming momentum seemed to erupt from within. He fell silent for a moment. Then the rain began to fall. His gaze also grew deeper. The demonic energy is continuously surging. Blood light illuminated this space. At this moment, Yan Shui regretted agreeing to his request back then, to become a Qilin guard. And her adoptive father muttered about responsibility, expressing that Shui didn't want him to die. Before he could finish speaking, his foster father's hand had already lost its flesh, turned into a skeleton. There's a drum behind. Bai's father slowly said, power. Then he took out the imperial seal. The seal seemed to be tainted by demonic energy, turning a dark red. Yan Shui saw this. Immediately, he said he didn't want to be a Kirin guard, and he was Yan Shui's foster father. After realizing this, Yan Shui held him, constantly pouring out his grievances, saying that after he left, there was no one to protect him anymore. Even his younger brother wanted to kill him. He said he truly didn't know what to do. Yan Shui is curious and wonders who is calling him, and the man's voice is getting closer. Yan Shui looked up, only to see the headless Qilin, with the former Qilin, now a withered husk, sitting on top, unable to die, despite wanting to. She does not know what is happening outside, and this is the space of Qilining. It is dark and dim here, a dead silence. Yet his name echoes constantly in the air. The human heart is inscrutable. The world is harsh and cold. What we see is merely the surface, yet we are unaware of the truth behind it. At this moment, Yan Shui is immersed in her own world. The earthy aura carried white smoke. At this moment, he hasn't regained consciousness. It seems as if he is immersed in a certain state. The Qilin that Jiang mentioned is what he has transformed into. The cruelty and malice in this world are but a fleeting thought. After hearing this, Jiang Li's gaze deepened, revealing those silver pupils, indicating he is a Qilin. At this moment, mist swirled around Yan Shui. His hair turned a deep red. Jiang Li, holding the blood curtain, said it wasn't a beast. It was just a shadow. Xiao Honglin was completely confused. They said it was the shadow of something. Why is it so terrifying? Xiao Honglin endured the beam of light. Then, that beast dissipated, leaving only a vague shadow of Yan Shui. Xiao Honglin was incredulous. He asked Jiang Li what kind of beast that was. Then, slowly raising his hand, he made Xiao Honglin close his eyes. He was confused. Jiang Li then used a spell, and saw only the beast covered by light. He saw its antennae moving endlessly in the air, the dim light making its features appear faintly. The deep eyeshadow concealed within descends. It made Xiao Honglin look away from him. Otherwise, his mind would be affected. The scene before him left him in shock. He saw a bizarre beast with countless horns, tall and oddly shaped. A cyclone continuously expanded outward from around him. The immense pressure made it hard to breathe. Xiao Honglin was astonished at what this creature was. Xiao Honglin was confused, angrily looking at Jiang Li. Then Jiang Li stood in front of him. The air currents surged around them. A terrifying killing intent swept over. Xiao Honglin wanted to take a look at it, and in the next second, just as he was about to touch it, the Qilin seal emitted a dazzling golden light. Jiang Li pushed Xiao Honglin aside. She thought it was quite beautiful. The Qilin seal was strong and majestic. The glaze was green with a hint of red. It looked very lifelike. Next to her, Jiang Li was unimpressed. The moonlight became hazy, shining through the treetops and scattering across the ground. At that moment, Xiao Honglin noticed that Yan Shui had woken up, just concerned about her health. At this moment, Xiao Honglin noticed a Qilin seal on Yan Shui's cuff. Xiao Honglin asked if the weak one that Yan Shui mentioned was her or the dead snake beside them. But Yan Shui admitted that, in fact, she might be the weakest one here. Xiao Honglin was taken aback, feeling a bit embarrassed. Her face started to turn red. Xiao Honglin was furious after hearing this. She said the most important thing when traveling the martial world is to uphold justice, to protect the weak. Jiang Li seemed thoughtful. She said she had a question. He asked, "Didn't your master teach you the most important thing about wandering the martial world?" Jiang Li said he hadn't indicated anything. "I only advised them to listen more, observe more, and think more after going down the mountain. Try to avoid killing people, and also, avoid getting too entangled in worldly karma." He was surprised that Jiang Li saw through it. He spat out a mouthful of blood mist, and fainted on the ground. Xiao Honglin helped Yan Shui to the side. He told Jiang Li that Lingxu Mountain probably wasn't a proper sect. Yan Shui was astonished upon hearing this. Suddenly, a trail of blood splattered through the air. The Waideasi is the most powerful organization in the world, and the sacrificial item they had prepared was taken by the woman with the breathtaking beauty before them. At this moment, Yan Shui had already suffered internal injuries, and requested that they clear the way now, leave on their own. Jiang Li said they were just passing by, claimed they had no ill intentions, then said he didn't have to force himself. Yan Shui let out a cold snort. Xiao Honglin's eyes widened, 10,000 points short. At this moment, Yan Shui, with a gloomy expression, thanked them for coming to their aid. He promised to repay them generously one day. Yin Bing saw the commander's departure. Just as he was about to speak, he saw a sharp blade pierce his skull. His voice abruptly stopped. He slowly collapsed along with it. The commander acknowledged the lesson. At this moment, his hand began to glow red. He then used a spell and disappeared. Turning into a beam of light, he drifted toward the depths of the forest. Yan Shui sneered, so it's the Godspeed technique. The commander was shocked. It was sword energy. He thought, no wonder Yazu and Huazu couldn't capture him. Yan Shui gently stroked his hair, saying, how else could I be called the #1 female tiger guard? He realized that there was actually a sword mark on his neck. Yan Shui said that this group of people came to hunt down a weak woman like her. Isn't he allowed to use a little trick? And in the next second, the snakes attacking him were decapitated. He coldly snorted, saying that he was quite quick to dodge. Hong Ling was surprised. He wasn't injured at all. He remarked that he never expected the dignified Yan Hui would actually resort to such sneak attacks. Before he finished speaking, he quickly dodged to the side. He even used a secret technique to slip out from his clothes. He looked at the scene before him, cautiously staring ahead, only to see Yan Shui waving her hidden weapon. Then the two energies slowly dissipated. The Serpent Guard commander heard his sound. He was surprised, wondering what happened. At that moment, he sensed something unusual. A chilling frost emanated from the blade. In an instant, it surrounded him. The air seemed sharp with blades. He let out cries of anguish. And his mask shattered as well. Then, Jiang Li helped him up. Yin Bing was astonished. Could this sword really belong to Ling Bing? Just as he was filled with joy. The next moment, he immediately grabbed his hand, snatched the twin cranes from Xiao Honglin's hands, with one kick, sent him flying. Xiao Honglin suffered internal injuries. He coughed up blood. In the midst of flashing swords and blades, Yin Bing's weapon actually broke. He found it hard to believe. This scene also astonished Xiao Honglin. Yin Bing seized the moment when he was lost in thought. Xiao Honglin snorted coldly. Then he drew his sword and swung it at Yin Bing. Yet Yin Bing was unconvinced, saying that his temper was still quite large. It was as if blades were clashing. He expressed that it was truly tasteless. Seeing this, the snake leader ordered Yin Bing to deal with the girl. Yin Bing coldly snorted, saying that he was really meddling too much. He remarked that he truly didn't know how to live, so let him accompany her to death. Ready to strike. The atmosphere instantly became tense. Yin Bing said it tasted like half a lifetime, telling her not to meddle. Xiao Honglin angrily said that so many people were bullying an injured girl. This woman, with unparalleled beauty, was Yenzhou's #1 female tiger guard. Because the ritual items were taken away, she was being pursued by the serpent guards sent by the Shangfeng. At this moment, Xiao Honglin ordered the serpent guards to let her go. She held the hilt of her sword. Yan Shui's face showed disdain. Her eyes sharpened. The serpent tail slowly approached him. At that moment, a voice came from the side. They came in forcefully, showing they truly are the world's #1 female tiger guard. When they speak, they are fierce. He immediately readied himself in a battle stance. He signaled, let them learn their lesson. But if you want to rely on this, you shouldn't underestimate the tiger guard. Just let him call everyone else out. With a wave of the snake guard's hand, several people appeared behind him. He snorted coldly. The hidden weapons kept coming. The hidden weapons then fell to the ground. He said there was no need to test anymore. It indicated that he was indeed injured. It would be enough to report back. The snake remained silent for a moment. Then he launched an attack. In an instant, he threw out a hidden weapon. It was blocked by the blood test, and let out a cold snort. Then he asked if they knew what that was. He indicated not to waste time. Get to work quickly. He said to bring the body back. He said they just want him to hand over the items. Let them report back. They immediately withdrew, daring not to entangle with the Lord. Yan Shui mentioned. And they still dare to come after us. The Snake Lord followed suit and paid respects. Yan Shui said, when did these little snakes become so brave? The Snake Lord replied, the higher-ups gave the order. I had no choice but to obey. He looked around, still seeing no movement. He thought to himself, could it be that my eyes are playing tricks on me? At that moment, a figure slowly emerged from the shadows. Yan Shui said, they really won't leave us alone. So many of them are dead. And that woman was Yan Shui, the first female tiger guard of the Yazhou Weidao division. At this moment, he sensed something. He saw Jiang Li watching him from a distant treetop. Yan Shui was surprised. Who is it? Jiang Li's eyes, with their unusual hue, seemed to see through the world. A vague figure emerged from the depths of the forest. His hands were covered in blood. He seemed injured. He kept coughing, gasping for air. He gave it some thought. Shuanghe was about to speak, but he was taken into his magic treasure. He held the magic treasure, which instantly shrank. A swallow could be seen flying in the air, amazed that he had the blood and bones of the phoenix. If that's the case, at that moment, he sensed a bloody smell. Surprised that someone would arrive this late. Feel the warmth and coldness of humanity. Jiang Li said if he was willing. He could once again lend a trace of Bai Luan's power, to help him cultivate. Shuang He looked shocked. Where then is there a place for his cultivation? Jiang Li remained silent. Shuang He said he was tired. It expressed a desire to turn and be human. Witness the fleeting splendor of life. He can still use magic to preserve his frozen bloodline. It signifies that the ice bloodline will assist. After rebirth, it will surely bloom. Shuang He interrupted his words. It stated that in this world, there is no heart and no moon. Having gone through thunder tribulations and refinement, he has finally attained this human form. Could he really still become an egg? Jiang Li said this was, after all, a descendant of the ancient Shofeng. He merges into it, molding his energy to break the shell. It is just right to form his physical body. Shuang He asked what benefits this would bring him. It signifies 100 years of enduring cold and heat. The two cranes differ by 10,000 points. I see Xiao Honglin holding a hydrogen bomb. Shuang He asks if he is supposed to become that egg. Jiang Lin says that this egg lacks the energy to nourish it. It is hard to hatch. She said her appearance is quite good, though she's a bit young, but she'll do just fine. Jiang Li asked what she was talking about, saying, "You're still holding her." A wisp of residual soul asked Jiang Li, where can he go in this state? He said what he promised at the time was to be free. Jiang Li said, watch how he does it. Shuang He looked shocked. Then she glanced at Xiao Honglin. The spiritual weapon is surprised. Could it be intentional? He laughed and said, the little girl is so pitiful. If you're not careful, you might be backfired upon by this spirit. Jiang Li said, hasn't he already given him his freedom? Shuang He was surprised and said, freedom? His physical body has been destroyed. He said it was thanks to this magical tool. He expressed that his spirit had recovered quite a bit. He also mentioned that the method he used to refine qi seemed off. The wind spirit's influence hadn't faded yet. He can change at will. Radiating a cold, frosty aura. The spiritual energy was drawn back into the sword. At this moment, a voice came from the side, wind spirit refining qi. He sighed and said it brought up some bad memories. Jiang Li said he was awake. Zhu Yu laughed softly and remarked that they made the first move this time. Bao Yi and his two companions were dumbfounded and felt a bit uneasy. A spiritual sword was floating in front of Jiang Lin. Lord Bao caught it, heartbroken. In his anger, he shouted, how dare you harm my spirit beast? He demanded to know who he really was. Zhu Yu waved the straw hat and said it was from Lingxu Mountain. Lord Bao thought things were going wrong. He saw Xuanzang's soul trembling. In the next second, Zhu Yu grasped it tightly. He held Xuanzang's body in his right hand, then threw it towards Lord Bao, but it was caught by him at its vital point. It was just an earth snake. It also shouted. His little hand waved. Then he pulled Xuanzang's soul out. It's none of his damn business. Master Bao flew into a rage. It's called Xuanzang. The little snake appeared extremely fierce. Then it coiled toward Zhu Yu. At this moment, everything was silent. Master Bao asked if he just used a sealing technique. Zhu Yu pondered and said, how does that saying go? His uncle had just taught him a few days ago. Then it came to him. He panicked and touched his mouth. The second brother hurriedly called out to him. Immediately, he drew his sword. At that moment, Leopard Lord slammed the table, interrupted the second son's actions. He then used magic to seal the third brother's mouth. He saw his mouth become smooth. Not a single trace remained. He was terrified. Then a bright spell appeared. His eyes grew sharp. The third brother whimpered. It seemed he was begging for mercy. I saw his fingertips glimmer. It indicated that for the sake of the flesh. Lao San struggled continuously. Zhu Yu said you can't laugh at this name, indicating it was given to him by his favorite person, and those who insult him must die. His gaze became deep. What a terrible name. The person who came up with the name probably has a wooden fish for a brain. At this moment, the bowl fell to the ground. Zhu Yu covered Lao San's mouth. The second one burst out laughing. He said it was a good name. He expressed that it matched the dish for tonight perfectly. The third one, however, had a look of disdain. He said it was a load of crap. The third one, irritable as always, told him to hurry up and pour the wine after eating. The second one asked him what his name was. He said his name was Zhu Yu. The third one asked him back, Zhu Yu, as a sign of offering it to him, but he put down the wine jar, indicating he'd serve himself. Then he grabbed a big piece of pork and started eating. The second one said he liked this kid. Fat fish and big meat. The third brother asked him to fill the wine. The child complied. The third brother said his hand was quite steady. Then he speared a piece of meat. In exchange, he'd give him a few pieces of meat to eat. The waiter thought to himself, this is bad, but he had a look of delight. He said it was just great. The dishes on the table were a feast for the eyes. He wanted to eat some meat. The waiter whispered that those people were not to be messed with, told him to leave. Before he finished speaking, the third brother called the child, asking him to come over and pour wine for him. They asked if there was any food. He saw someone dressed in coarse clothing, dressed simply. The child wearing a bamboo hat stood behind him. He said he was hungry. It means his mouth could be knocked off. Then they realized they had no more wine. So they called for the shopkeeper to bring more wine. The waiter, carrying the wine, wondered how this group of troublemakers had arrived. At that moment, he heard someone behind him speaking, and acknowledged her skills. The third brother asked what she looks like. He said that for women, looks still matter. Everything else is secondary. The second brother said, why don't you try saying that to her face? However, he mentioned that the true first female tiger guard of Yezhou is someone else. It's Yen Shui, the commander of Yezhou. If you know about the women in the tiger guards, it's no exaggeration to say she's the best in the world. The second brother said he had seen her in a previous mission. The third brother quickly explained. Mr. Bao said he would eventually die because of that foul mouth. He then said that Xiao Hong was indeed quite good-looking, even ignoring that she is a woman. Her achievements in battle and skills truly deserve the title of Tiger Guard. The first female Tiger Guard is top-notch in both skill and appearance. And the third brother said he would like to see for himself. He said the Tiger Guards he's seen were all big and rough. Not many were presentable. Mr. Bao then began to curse loudly. He also said it wasn't worth offending the Xiao family for this. Although they're not as good as before, their foundation is still solid. Not to mention, there's also Xiao Hui's reputation. Along with the sentiment that it's the taste of Yezhou. It really is too wasteful to give it to the little girl from the Xiao family. The second one said he understands nothing. He said that thing is not so easy to hatch. He pointed out that it's a monster beast. It needs demonic energy to hatch. He was drinking wine. The third brother felt that he had lost a bit in the previous matter. He stated that it was a spirit beast egg. Moreover, it was personally carved. After hatching, it could ride the flying fins to become a phantom beast. He then grabbed the hilt of his sword. He drew his spear sword. A sound of the sword's edge whistled through the air. At this moment, inside and in, the black tiger kept gnawing on the meat hanging above, thinking that there was no need to worry. He would help him himself. And the demon soul beside him was none other than Qinyan Xiao Jianli from before. He asked if he had made up his mind. Was he truly willing to become his spirit vessel? Being his might not necessarily be a blessing. All he wished was for the child to be safe and happy. Then he looked at Xiao Honglin, and said he was the right choice. Afterwards, he closed his eyes. Jiangli said that this time he descended the mountain. With on his mind, he had no time to worry about anything else. He was just going with the flow. This indicated an uncertain future. He realized that the young man from earlier was a celestial master. The sun set. The moonlight illuminated the earth. In the distance, a bonfire was visible. The sound of insects chirping surrounded them. He had just suffered a serious injury. The wound has actually healed. Looking at the healed wound, Su Shidi was astonished. It turns out to be celestial magic. Jiangli held the egg in her hands. She thought about human nature, and let out a sigh. A faint smile appeared on her lips. In the distance, senior brother Shen and his group were shocked. He said they are all so pitiful. Yet he still goes to add insult to injury. He asked Jiangli if he still had any humanity left. He couldn't understand why his sister was full of praise for him. Then, he rode away on his horse. It means that person didn't promise to take action. Did he give 20 taels of silver? He took out a silver ingot. He said this portion belongs to him. Xiao Honglin was indignant. Suddenly, Jiangli appears on horseback. He says their family is quite famous. Xiao Honglin is surprised. Where did he just go? Jiangli says he just went to collect some money. He indicated that he is out of date. He gave a face to selling the red sausage. Let them clean up the beast's corpse. And then leave. The wind rustles the leaves. What's there to be so arrogant about? The second brother said their ancestors had served in the Qilin Guard. The third brother looked astonished. Old Master Bao said that was all old news from 100 years ago. The blessings of the Qilin have long been exhausted. He replied, Xiao Honglin of the Xiao family in Qingshan. Master Bao looked thoughtful upon hearing this. Xiao Honglin then asked, do you also want the Xiao family to disband? At this moment, the forest seemed a bit quiet. The third brother gritted his teeth and said, it's just a family from one place. It turned out to be a monster. Let Master Bao come over. Xiao Honglin, however, had a look of disdain. Master Bao slowly approached, then asked who he was. As they passed by Xiao Honglin, the third brother noticed something. He saw the hydrogen bomb in Xiao Honglin's arms. He then signaled the horse to stop. He was a bit excited. But Jiangli had vanished without a trace. Xiao Honglin looked helpless. At this moment, Mr. Bao discovered that the demon beast's soul was already gone. He wondered if it was the people from the Linjiang gang who took it. He then instructed his men to chase after them. He's back. At this moment, he noticed he had a green egg in his hand. He then cradled it in his arms. He asked Jiangli what kind of egg this was. Why is it so heavy? Watching them leave, he could hear his subordinates mocking them. Xiao Honglin thought they were too vile. Jiangli said this doesn't quite sound like what was initially told. Xiao Honglin was surprised. He asked if their leader's surname was Peng. Senior brother Shen responded. Master Bao then said to let him go back and tell that Peng guy that the Linjiang gang must disband within 3 days, or they will be prosecuted for assembling for profit. Senior brother Shen told him not to act impulsively. He said it was time to leave. Junior brother Su lowered his head in silent agreement. The group then followed and left. At that moment, Master Bao asked them to wait. The others quickly took out medicine to heal him. Third brother asked him if he was dissatisfied. Junior brother Su was burning with anger. He was about to fight him. At that moment, he was grabbed. Junior brother Su shouted as he rushed forward. Senior brother spat out blood. He immediately stepped forward to check. Third brother said the rules of the world are all made by them. He said they are the rules. A shadow of light flashed by. Old 3 swung his knife at senior brother Shen. Blood splattered. Old 3 was arrogant and domineering, looking down on everyone, and shoved him aside. He leaned into junior brother Su and asked him about the rules. Senior brother Shen let him step back and quickly apologized to Master Wei Daoxi. Just then, third brother snorted coldly. Senior brother Shen comforted junior brother Su, urging him to step aside quickly. Don't get involved. Third brother casually placed a hand on senior brother Shen's shoulder, and Su Shidi said that they found this invitation first. It's first come, first served. Even if it's to help kill. He retorted that even if it's the taste, there should be rules, right? Suppressing the anger within him. Third brother said his ears were stuffed with donkey hair. Ask him if he heard it or not. The horse also cried angrily, seeing that Lao San was a bit impatient. Third brother spoke up, telling them to get lost. Then, the group immediately paid their respects. Third brother's gaze fixed ahead. He saw junior brother Su blocking his way. His expression was serious. A reef is coiled around his upper body. At this moment, his subordinate, Lao San, looks disdainful, showing an arrogant smile. Brother Shen is astonished. They are the Wei Dao division. Before the coronation ceremony, they will surely recover the Qilin legacy. The wind blows, and the white silk drifts slowly. He says, it looks like the wind has picked up. It seems like the world's order is about to change. Just then, a burly man emerges from the shadows. As for what remains, all regions have been ordered to search and replenish. Did the young master say he has any leads? The subordinate said he has already made arrangements. His words carried a murderous intent. He implied to set their mind at ease. The needed yellow bean trees for the nation have been found. The young master asked, what about the offerings? The subordinate replied, we've gathered about 10 to 89. It means everything we sought over the years has been gathered if it can be used. This is the demon-suppressing tower at the headquarters of Yenzhou's Taste Bureau. At this moment, he asked how the funeral preparations were going. A subordinate replied that they were requesting construction. They've also mobilized 3,000 volunteers from various regions. It's almost complete. He opened his unique eyes. Looking at the city before him, he felt a surge of emotions inside. It was tumultuous. And the place he was in. A subordinate said, things have come to this point, and that countless lives now hang on his decision. I can't be indecisive any longer. He let out a deep sigh. Slowly, he walked to the window. Ascend to the throne as soon as possible. Delay invites disputes. He said, ascend to the throne, and then gave a cold snort. He has never coveted the throne. And the person in front of him is the son of the Qilin Guard, the young master of the Yenzhou Wei Dao division. At this moment, his words were interrupted by a subordinate. The subordinate told him that now is not the time for sentimental feelings. The top priority is to stabilize the situation. He is also not a good husband. When his mother passed away, he wasn't by her side either. In Beijun, the magical place, he led his people to eliminate 72 demons. But he is not a good father. Even on the day he was born, he was on a mission. That day, he hunted a sea monster, on Qinyu Island in Nanjun. He came with great force, looking fierce and menacing. He's a good Qilin. His fists are clenched tightly, above all others. Just about to thank him for stepping in to help, he said the beast was his. Before Lin Jianggang could finish speaking, they saw the person riding the black tiger. Wearing the uniform of the Guardians of the Way, it was actually a black tiger. He slowly walked out from the shadows. An aide beside him said his luck was quite good. He had just hunted a green-eyed owl. The big man clasped his hands together. The beast spat out a mouthful of blood. The man was furious. Looking back, I could only hear laughter coming from ahead. I saw a person riding a mount. But Jiangli had already vanished without a trace. Xiao Honglin wondered where he had gone. Just then, a shadow flashed swiftly past him. It struck the beast in the abdomen in an instant. At this point, the battle grew fiercer. Smoke billowed. Xiao Honglin was surprised the beast didn't fly away, and said, this bird is really dumb. He then asked where Jiangli was. The man realized the situation was becoming tricky. He drew his weapon, turned and said to them, as long as they don't intervene, 20 taels of silver will be offered afterward. Then charged toward the giant eagle, ahead and said, what a huge bird. They saw a beast resembling an eagle flapping its massive wings. At this moment, the battle was fierce. It let out a piercing screech. In an instant, a gust of wind swept out from its side in all directions. The sound from the woods grew louder. Suddenly, a beast appeared. Everyone fought with all their might. The man was greatly astonished. Xiao Hongling pointed. It's not like I will take their share. The big man apologized. He said once it's done, Linjiang gang will surely reward them handsomely. At that moment, he indicated that it wasn't convenient to enter. Xiao Honglin looked displeased. He said, does this whole forest belong to the Linjiang gang? He said, isn't it just hunting some demonic beasts? What's the big deal? Then he said the demonic aura is too weak. He also didn't know. Xiao Honglin said, then let's get closer and take a look. At that moment, they were stopped. A burly man said, the Linjiang gang is doing business inside. At this moment, there was a huge commotion in the jungle. Voices were constantly coming from within the forest. Jiang Li was watching from the side. Xiao Honglin asked Jiang Li what beast they were surrounding and killing. Jiang Li sensed the demonic aura. He saw a group of people riding horses. With great momentum. They said there were monsters ahead. Jiang Li was quite interested. Xiao Honglin said to hurry up and take a look. Jiang Li said he didn't need it anymore. He indicated that he had already carved it. Just then, a noise came from afar. Xiao Honglin turned around to look. At this moment, Xiao Honglin was slowly walking with the knife and horse. The atmosphere was a bit awkward. He secretly glanced at Jiang Li. He brought up the previous topic. He asked if Jiang Li still needed the knife. Jiang Li said that Mu Wan is her master's name. Xiao Honglin pouted. She snorted coldly. What's so great about it? Just let Jiang Li return the knife to him. But that snake's head is larger than that of a horse. Jiang Li said that such a large ancient beast must be Ba Hui. It indicates that his master had killed a few of them before. Xiao Honglin was unconvinced. She asked Jiang Li what her master's name was. Then he sighed and said, they're the strongest, most remarkable people. They guard the 12 provinces of Dashuan. Aside from the royal family and the emperor in the imperial capital, they're the most noble and powerful people, and the Qilin of Yazhou is the most powerful among them. Back then, he single-handedly killed a serpent demon that terrorized 3 provinces. They only come when summoned for missions, and their tasks mainly involve assassinations. Xiao Honglin said he definitely didn't want to be a snake guard. Jiang Li asked him, what about the Qilin guard? Xiao Honglin asked, the Qilin guard, and medicine cicadas responsible for concocting medicines and healing injuries. Besides them, there's also the snake division, but they are very mysterious. They usually disguise themselves as various kinds of people to gather information, just like his cousin. But Chan Wei and the others aren't part of the combat department. Most of them are recruited talents from the martial world. They have Jin Chan, responsible for making money. There are fire cicadas responsible for forging weapons and armor. They specifically deal with supernatural beings like demons and monsters. If you accumulate enough battle merits, you can be promoted to Tiger Guard. Tiger Guards are the main force of Waideasi. Each of them is a powerful warrior, capable of holding their own. The Dog Guards have the largest number. They are responsible for patrolling and protecting various areas within the prefecture. The Iron Armor Brothers serve as Dog Guards in Waideasi, but they are different from ordinary constables. They generally don't catch thieves. He also asked to settle his payment. Xiao Hongchang said he could never repay him for saving his life, but there was one more favor he wanted to ask. Incomplete. Yazhou hasn't reached the authorities yet. Jiang Li picked up the bamboo hat, and adjusted the thin strings inside. Then he slowly put it on. Jiang Li asked Xiao Hongchang if he was done. He suggested they head back now. Those who are powerless leave no name. This is the rule of the world. He then turned to look. A Feng beside him also looked over. Xiao Hong had told him not to reveal that Jiang Li is a cultivator. Then he replies. Xiao Hong often says the taste is profound. The spirits are immortal. This means that even after death, they will guard this place. At this moment, A Feng tightly holds onto the smile. Xiao Hong often mourns nearby. A Feng asks Sister Xiao, elder brother, does he really want to be buried in this desolate mountain? He looks at the iron-hearted wooden sign. He discovers that it is actually bone and blood. He holds it in his hand. Looking at the bodies of the people nearby, he thinks that so many people need to be buried. It seems some are busy. At that moment, Hu Chanwei was curious. What exactly is the witch clan's corpse guarding? At this moment, petals fall. Gradually, a red pearl floats in the air. Jiang Li then picks it up to take a closer look. Hu Chanwei was astonished. It turned out to be blood vine bone. He thought, could it be him? Then the citizen also died in despair. However, Qing'er wanted to take his face. He said it was that person from Yazhou Waideasi Zhongsisi. Before he could finish, he started trembling. In an instant it was pierced through the head. A vine emerged from the red mole. Officer Hu asked who was behind it. The citizen stammered. He said he couldn't tell. Officer Hu then called out for Ah Qing. The citizen shouted as well, told him to find the tomb. Once opened, they would know, indicating what was inside. He truly didn't know. He told him to quickly remove the venomous creature. It's just stiff and unable to move. Then she took out a bamboo tube, indicating that this is the venomous creature bred this year. Seeing this, Shermingyi, immediately said that the man only gave him a map. Called out to Qing. Qing then asked him if he knew what was on his neck. Shi Mingyi looked terrified. Qing said it was a cicada unwilling to emerge from the wind. But the bug is not poisonous. Shi Mingyi remarked, since you changed your name, why not stay hidden in the mountains? Why do you still meddle in the affairs of the world, stirring up trouble? He then asked, what are you searching for by opening ancient tombs? Shi Mingyi said he didn't know. Hu Chanwei, seeing this, Zhao Huayin thought of his identity. A look of terror. He's from the snake faction. Qing'er scratched her head and smiled. Wu Chanwei said he's a disciple of the Mingzhou sect's lower courtyard. That the master was the ultimate troublemaker, saying that he dared to show off with just this bit of corpse poison. Zhao Huayin was shocked that it was actually him. Qing'er looked smug, saying that she had spent a whole month running through the wilderness with that group of stinky thieves just for him. The poison needle dropped to the ground. A puff of black smoke rose. At this moment, a figure appeared behind him. He patted him on the shoulder, lightly, signaling to him. He asked Hu Chan what she had done for him, but behind him, a venomous bee had already stung his body. His hand kept trembling. So, what's wrong with him? Hu Chan snorted coldly, saying he dared to play with poison in front of her, thinking, at least it's just an abdication. He then took out a poison needle, and said he'd send him to meet Xiao Huwei. At that moment, his body couldn't move. His hand dropped involuntarily. He was puzzled as to why Hu was here. Hu Changwei said that this was also something he wanted to ask him. Then he asked him, what about Xiao Huwei and the others? Zhao Huayin was at a loss for words, hesitating for a long time. But then he thought, if he reports this, it could also be a great achievement. Just then, a figure appeared in the distance. As he approached, he was surprised to see that it was Hu Changwei. At this moment, the sky has returned to daylight. Sunlight shines upon the earth. A figure is seen rushing through the forest. That person is Zhao Huayin. He misjudged Jiang Li. A boundless joy filled the air. A foam supports Xiao Hongchang, indicating that it's all over. A foam looks up at the sky, wondering where Zhao Huayin has gone. Wu's lips moved slightly, as if bidding him farewell. Jiang Li lamented for him. He saw Wu begin to dissipate. The wind gently blew the falling petals. Jiang Li gazed at him. He also stared back at Jiang Li, and his breathtaking beauty. It was as if all of heaven and earth were astonished by him. Jiang Li regretted that their era had already passed. Jiang Li looked at the immortal master, Ash, deep in thought. He turned to look aside. The house appeared particularly striking under the sunlight. He basked in the sunlight, opening his enchanting eyes. The person standing against him was none other than the immortal master. The two locked eyes for a moment. Then Jiang Li muttered something. Suddenly, the immortal master's body began to burn. He then vanished into the flames. Xiao Hongchang seemed deep in thought. Ironblood's face gradually became visible. Afeng called out, "Big brother." Xiao Hongchang asked Afeng to help him up. He walked over, while Jiang Li bowed her head. Xiao Hongchang said he was fine. His gaze then turned to the distance. He saw a figure there, and that person was Ironblood. At this moment, the demonic aura around him began to dissipate. He hopes he can fulfill it. Xiao Hongchang then agreed. Afeng noticed Xiao Jie's tone. He was also very happy. He was so excited, he just wanted to hug him. Xiao Hongchang thanked him. Jiang Li said he has one more request. He then looked aside. He indicated that the energy in his sword could overwhelm the two cranes. He has already promised him his freedom. At that moment, a cold wave swept in from behind. Two cranes descended slowly, carrying the sword hilt. Jiang Li temporarily suppressed the corpse poison in Xiao Hong's body. He said that his spirit had been greatly depleted. He indicated that he still needed proper recuperation. Sunlight gradually breaks through the dark clouds. Feng looks at Jiang Li. Surprised, they haven't disappeared already. However, Jiang Li suddenly appeared beside Xiao Hongchang. Feng asked him what he wanted to do while holding a knife. Could it be the monks? The black ink disperses. Supportingly, his body is a bit exhausted. Just say yes. Hu Chanwei told Qing'er to hurry. The dark clouds gradually parted. At this moment, a black mist formed around Jiang Li, who had been struck by the ink reef. Feng was astonished. He asked him, "Who are you really?" Hu Chanwei told him not to say such things with that face. Just then, he sensed something unusual. Qing'er asked him what was wrong. They saw the dark clouds in the distance dispersing. Hu Chanwei said it's just that he can't break the formation, indicating there is a solution. Qing'er was taken aback, then jumped up, cheering joyfully. She asked if he had thought of a way to break the formation. Hu Chanwei said there's no way to break this formation. Qing'er was shocked. She asked, "Are we just supposed to wait for that young man?" Afraid of having his soul drawn away, he said, "Return." In an instant, the black serpent engulfed Jiang Li. It caused massive ripples. At this moment, Hu Chanwei said he once saw a cultivator with his own eyes. But Qing'er found him long-winded. At that moment, the world was enveloped in celestial energy. A tremendous aura descended upon the world. He muttered, "By the command, I order the spirit of Lingxu Mountain to return to its place." Before long, Mo Jiao opened its wide mouth. It had come before Zhongli. Zhongli thought it was more troublesome than last time, and that flood dragon actually wanted to pounce on him. Zhongli thought it was not good. Only his fingertips shimmered with light. He then pointed to the sky, releasing the power of Tai Chi. "I want to subdue the ink flood dragon." But the ink flood dragon keeps roaring. It struggles incessantly. An energy flows out from its mouth. However, Mo Jiao did not want to listen to Jiang Li's words. With a roar that echoed through the heavens and the earth, Jiang Li sighed, feeling a bit helpless. He raised his hand, his gaze lost in fear, muttering the same words over and over. Then he slumped to the ground. At this moment, Jiang Li said he just wanted to play for a while. He then called Mo Jiao back, surprised that it's a dragon. Then the black dragon absorbs the god. At that moment, his aura was earth-shattering, as if he could devour the world. Afeng stared into his deep eyes. The great shaman's body gradually dissipated as Mo Jiao moved. Mo Jiao kept tearing at the great shaman. It turned into energy that scattered from his mouth. From a distance, Afeng watched the scene unfold, a face full of shock. In this moment, the world trembles. The monk might be the closest existence to an immortal in this situation. Mo Jiao let out a furious roar. Following Jiang Li's command, he circled around the great shaman. In an instant, he swallowed the great shaman in one bite, gradually morphing into a dragon. Thunder rumbles at this moment. The wind howls wildly, as if the heavens and earth can't contain this massive dragon. Its massive jaws, like an abyss, rushed towards the divine. He was surprised at the speed of the loss. He thought to himself that he could only use that move. Then he raised his sword, reciting to the very end. The sword begins to transform. Ah Feng rushed out. He indicated that he would handle this. Let Jiang deal with the big one. Xiao Jie seems to be in bad shape. Jiang turned to look. With a crane's cry, the two cranes flew toward the corpse general. Jiang Li thought that this increased their chances of victory. At this moment, Tai Shui leapt into the air, charging toward him. But Shuang He expressed fear of his Ming Yen. Jiang Li reassured him not to worry. He said his frozen bloodline was enough to resist his soul fire. He promised that after helping him in this battle, he would grant him freedom. At this moment, the witch servant empowered the witch pillar's power, protecting the great witch from descending. Jiang Li thought it was not good to get too close. Seeing the situation was a bit tricky, he called over the nearby Shuang He to help. Jiang Li snorted coldly, gripping his sword tightly. He unleashed his sword technique, only to see the dark spies sliced in half, gently falling from all around. Amidst the flashing blades, the bamboo hat was knocked off. Jiang Li dodged to a distance. He regretted losing the hat. At that moment, countless whistling projectiles flew at him. He quickly caught it in time. He thought, that was close. Surprised, what was once difficult had turned into a radiant force that could burn souls. Just then, the awakened warrior swung his sword. It could transform into various forms. It conjured blades out of thin air to block the pair. My light is like an arrow. He thought to himself, this doesn't seem like the spirit summoning ritual master mentioned. At that moment, a chirping butterfly flew by, slowly walking forward. The descending deity noticed. Countless blades flew toward Jiang Li. He thought to himself that it was indeed difficult to deal with. The descending deity's body was full of unpredictable energy. Then, holding the broken twin swords, he recited, end focus, transform into energy. A spiritual sword materialized before them. He wielded the spiritual energy, wondering if he could even handle this situation. At this moment, Wu has awakened dramatically. Zhao Huayin is in disbelief. Look surprised. What is this? Jiang Li said it's the great shaman's spirit summoning. The corpses among the wild geese have become increasingly bizarre. He stands there as if reborn from the fire. Tai Xian has also awakened. Now he resembles an ancient demon god. At this moment, a tremendous aura spreads throughout heaven and earth. Utterly terrified. Meanwhile, the demonic energy dispersed, disrupting the two cranes. He kept flapping his wings. He wants to dispel the flames. The demonized Tai Xian became increasingly violent. He howled relentlessly, as if something had awakened inside him. After the frenzy ended, he glared furiously at the red-eyed Efeng. In that case, the other side should be awakening. The talisman started to slowly dissipate. Zhao Huaying was a hair's breadth away. The shaman appeared with it. Those deep crimson eyes. Dragons are the most mysterious creatures in the world. No one has ever seen its true form. At this moment, Zhao Huaying was terrified. Looking back, Jiang Li said he shouldn't have sealed him with the soul control talisman. He mentioned that the only remaining soul was trapped in the formation. The Frosty Lingi was unexpectedly separated from the pair by Captain Xiao. Just as the Frosty Lingi firmly inscribed the flames of the Red Lotus corpse on its attributes, no one noticed. However, the soul-restraining talisman on the forehead of the Millennium Corpse King was quietly dissipating. In the darkness, a violent shadow was slowly, were shattered by Jiang Li's voice. Jiang Li truly deserves to be the supreme master of Lingxu Mountain. She immediately recognized Xiao Tongling's current state. The 9-character mantra, which has oppressed the heavens and earth for 800 years, was instantly activated. In an instant, a chilling aura that froze the world surged wildly. He gently shook the bell. The Lion King bit down on the descendant of the Xiao family. This power is enough to destroy the world. It made old Zhao laugh maniacally, yet his beautiful fantasies. So he set up a massive scheme. He led the descendants of the Xiao family to use the soul fusion technique. They entered an irreversible demonization state. Unaware of anything, the descendants of the Xiao family personally placed the soul-binding talisman on the forehead of the 1000-year corpse king. In an instant, the 1000-year corpse king was controlled by Zhao. Then he used corpse-reviving techniques to refine that terrifying cultivator. In order to avoid being hunted by the Xiao family, old Zhao had to change his identity, and lived in hiding for 40 years. He unexpectedly found out about the news of the 1000-year corpse's demise, holding Lin Ding's twin cranes in his hand. Although today old Zhao was harmed, this also marks the beginning of his rise. He was born with his heart slightly on the right, which unexpectedly helped him avoid that deadly disaster. He easily pounced on and killed everyone. Old Zhao wanted to escape but was a step too late, and was ambushed and killed. The attacker was none other than Xiao Baihu's brother, who would also become the future head of the Xiao family. The cultivator was defeated, but the terrifying events had only just begun. Xiao Baihu had already turned into a demon, the fierce gaze fixed on everyone. With a leap, he merged his own essence with the spirit of the divine sword. Black feathers sprouted from Xiao Baihu's body. A violent and ferocious aura swept through the heavens. Even cultivators were suppressed by this terrifying aura. With just one move, before anyone could react, half of them were already injured or dead. Seeing the mission about to fail, Commander Xiao Baihu stained his sword with blood. This is the Dragon Soul technique of the ever-pressured world, perfected over a century. He accepted a spine-chilling task to assist the Weidao Temple in intercepting a cultivator. The clash between martial artists and cultivators. The outcome is easy to imagine. In just a moment, the bodies he controlled turned to ashes. This terrifying forbidden technique is also known as the technique that one dares not use. No one knows the man's name. Everyone calls him Old Zhao. Today, for 80 taels of silver, just to absorb the lingering energy from them, he carved strange captives into his body, all to better control the corpses in battle. He could even stain himself with blood, forcibly summoning the king of the underworld, but also the soon-to-be corpse Xiaotong Ridge. What no one else knew was that the old man's plan had been in the works for 40 years, but there was also a force in the field, quietly gathering power, strong enough to upend the heavens and earth. He had to collect 3,000 corpses every day. It swiftly lunged and bit Xiaotong Ridge on the neck. The hope that everyone had just ignited was once again shattered. They never could have imagined that this seemingly ordinary elder would betray Vados. Not only did he control the Lion King, but also lost most of his sanity. At that moment, a Feng felt as if he had been locked on by a primordial fierce bird. At this moment, the corpse-driving elder's bell rang again in the field. With the chime, a glimmer appeared in the Lion King's eyes. I no longer have the strength to fight, but the ending was still a success. The soul-suppressing talisman is already placed on the corpse king's forehead, but the terrifying part has just begun. Commander Xiao, who transformed into a demon, not only can never return to human life. Huge ice pillars appeared, freezing everything. Among them was the Red Lotus Corpse General, but the corpse king was nowhere to be seen. The corpse king stood there, holding half of a frost wing, while Commander Xiao lay on the ground, wanting to end the battle quickly. He needed to place the soul-suppressing talisman on the Lion King's forehead. He didn't hesitate for a second, and transformed into a frost crane, charging at the Lion King. As the blinding white light faded, his eyes also lost the luster that humans should have. They became eerie and violent. With a wave of his hand, he summoned an ice wall, blocking the blazing flames of the Crimson Lotus corpse. He then asked the corpse herder for a soul-suppressing talisman. You must know that this Ling Bing was forged from 10,000 years of ice. The sword also sealed a Ling crane with frozen bloodline. As Ling Bing shattered, the sealed Ling crane fused with Captain Xiao. A pair of pure white wings, like ice crystals, appeared behind Commander Xiao. Captain Xiao of the Weidao division made a strange move. He lifted Ling Bing with both hands, and softly said, "I'm sorry." After saying that, he drew blood across the sword. Thus, the legendary Ling Bing was shattered. He summoned a Red Lotus Corpse General, but the result was still heartbreaking. The Corpse General from the Nine Hell was unexpectedly controlled by the Corpse King. The hope that had just ignited among the crowd was ruthlessly extinguished, as everyone was about to give up resisting, has now re-emerged in this incident. Yet the result of the battle is shocking. The Wei Dao Si, who dominated the world for 300 years, was actually overpowered by a millennium-old Lion King. The elder of the corpse-driving sect spared no effort to assist with bloodshed. He forcibly opened the netherworld of the Nine Hell. Merge with oneself can cause a significant increase in strength, but the consequence is that the body will also become a divine weapon. This is also known as the soul fusion technique. This unparalleled forbidden technique. With a single anger, he suppressed the fire. This is completely against common sense. Even more terrifying is that the Lion King actually controlled General Honglian. There is a group of people in this world. They extract the souls of divine weapons, trying to refine the Lion King. But the next scene, the old man was almost scared to death on the spot. I saw the Lion King controlling a tree, absorbing the flames of the netherworld, rushing towards the endless undead shadows to strike. In an instant, flames shot into the sky. The old man controlled him to the side of the Lion King, exploding rapidly. All the red lotuses flew into a cold, 9 hell flames. The eerie, terrifying aura of the netherworld swept across the heavens and earth. A flash in the void, and a figure from the netherworld appeared beside the elder. The Crimson Lotus General made a hand seal between his fingers. Flames condense into a butterfly. A blood-red talisman was engraved on his arm. He's actually going to use a forbidden technique. He wants to open the Jade Gate of the netherworld, to summon the Crimson Lotus General from his sect. The palm of the elder's right hand slowly cracked open. The Lion King raised his hand to point at the heavens and the earth. And suddenly, countless undead figures surged forth. Just when everyone was in despair, an elder with lost courage stepped forward, unsealing the restriction on his right hand, and the ice instantly shattered. The man was miraculously restored. He stood before the Lion King like a guard. The enormous gap in cultivation threw everyone into a panic, but with just a slight wave of his hand, the girl was instantly sent flying. With a casual strike, the girl was gravely injured. The Lion King lightly tapped the man with his finger, no longer under the lion's control. With a single swing of his sword, the cold chill instantly froze the man. But there was no time to grieve. A 1,000-year-old Lion King, towering at 4 meters, stood silently behind him. But the man, long dead, struck with lethal intent. In a daze, scenes from the past resurfaced in her mind. But one careless move and the man had his hat knocked off. The man died for him. He wants the man to rest in peace. But now, his face was lifeless. His eyes were bloodshot. His body only reacted instinctively to slash at everyone. That terrifying killing intent was effortlessly blocked by the girl. The girl held back at every turn. The man decided to fight to the death against ancient corpses, to earn a generous reward. But the man was never heard from again. Today, as the girl and her companions were dealing with cholera, the man's figure appeared once again. Why, when they loved each other, yet he still dealt such a deadly blow. They had known each other on the battlefield for years, fighting life and death together. To give the girl a proper marriage, she only gave them a faint glance, and they felt an icy chill sweep through their bodies. For the girl she secretly loved, she fought bloodily against a 1,000-year-old corpse, but the girl ended up killing her with her own hands. But a voice interrupted him. The soldiers from the Wei Dao Si rushed out of the village. Yet at the end of the road appeared a figure over 4 meters tall. Her face was deathly pale, and her eyes were blood red. Then, I don't know how long it passed, his third uncle came back again, but his eyes had turned bright red. It seemed he regarded him as food. At that moment, the boy thought he was about to meet his end. According to him, his third uncle disappeared while working on the farm. He only heard his uncle telling him to run, but saw no trace of him. Frightened and uneasy, the boy locked himself at home. After the boy comes out, he says nothing, just stuffing his mouth with dry food. Ah Feng looked impatient. Little did he know, the boy was the source of it all. The sun shines on the earth. The shadows immediately flee. They narrowly escape disaster. Jiang Li also relies on her strong perception to discover a boy hiding in the well. But Jiang Li wasn't worried about the group attack at all. His 9-word mantra easily swept across the battlefield. Yet the dark figures seemed endless, and his internal energy was nearly depleted. Fortunately, with the dawn, they saw countless corpses devoutly kneeling in worship. A figure appeared, none other than the Corpse King with a millennium of cultivation. The oppressive atmosphere made everyone's skin crawl. As the Corpse King raised his hand and pointed, countless dark figures charged in frantically. He seemed to have noticed something. A talisman was stuck to the corpse's forehead. The bell in his hand swayed slightly from time to time. The corpse led them to the source of it all, and they would regret their recklessness for the rest of their lives. The elder, skilled in sensing techniques, took the chance to observe. Xiao Zonglin drew Lin Bing. The freezing chill turned into a cold stream, piercing through the zombies. But the corpse was frozen in place. The old man started studying it carefully. The forest was instantly illuminated by light. They were already surrounded by countless zombies. But no one panicked. Ah Feng was in charge of clearing the area. Jiang Li maintained the light. Wei Daoxi received news that there are zombies appearing in Lingxu Mountain. Although the mountains and forests are eerie and frightening, no abnormalities were found. Only the 9-character incantation of the zombies commanded the Heavenly Emperor's brilliance. They roam the world, solely to eradicate all demons. They are the Wei Daoxi, but they are that powerful. Today they encountered a change. Jiang Li has also become a target because of this. At the same time, the Millennium Lion King is about to make an appearance. They are an organization that strikes fear into demons. Each of them possesses unique talents and abilities. However, the people at the Yamen did not take it seriously at all. They casually tore off the talisman and threw it aside. Meanwhile, Zhongli arrived at Sadao Cliff with 2 mountain spirits. Even the head of the sect needs to eat. The yin-yang reversal was instantly applied. Transform the weasel into nothingness. Before continuing the journey, he placed a soul-consolidating talisman on that person's head. He sent the 2 people beside him to take him to the Yamen. At this moment, he finally knew fear. The power of the Changjiao lineage was truly terrifying. Zhongli also wanted to ask about the silver-eyed Qilin, but the weasel, with only 100 years of cultivation, had no idea. Since he was of no use, a divine dragon connecting heaven and earth suddenly appeared. Its massive eyes stared indifferently at the weasel. Under the pressure of its bloodline, the weasel's strength was sealed by 80%. He reverted to his original form. The weasel entered a world like an ink painting. A faint dragon's aura stretched across the sky. Terrified, the long-armed monkey lay flat on the ground, not daring to move. Only the weasel pretended to stay calm. At some point, unfortunately, he picked the wrong person. The sound of the barrage was like thunder from the heavens. The yin-yang symbol on her chest quickly rotated. It unleashed a powerful pressure. The scene shifted suddenly. Zhongli felt as though he was facing the sun and moon. Then, the weasel transformed. She became a working woman. No nonsense at all. With a wave of her hand, powerful illusions emerged. Zhongli pointed with one finger. With a single word, the chieftain lost all life. But even more bizarrely, a white, phantom-like weasel slowly rose from the statue. Now things were dangerous. The leader became even less like a human. The 2 of them managed to escape by sheer luck. However, Zhongli seemed even more intrigued. When they arrived at the abandoned temple, the inhuman chieftain lunged in for a kill. Although he used to be very harsh, but now his eyes have turned green. He looks completely inhuman. What's even more terrifying is that the leader often eats the brothers in the village. From that point on, they all wanted to change places. But the village chief didn't believe in this superstition. With one strike, he shattered the statue's head. Terrible things began from that day. They found that the village chief had changed. They fled to an abandoned mountain temple, to escape from the officials. Once inside, they discovered a strange idol being worshipped in the temple. Beneath the statue, it was piled high with white bones. The brothers in the village were very scared. They want the 2 of them to take him to their stronghold. Upon hearing the words stronghold, the 2 of them became even more frightened. They exclaimed that there were ominous things in the stronghold. According to them, in an instant, they turned into obedient kittens. But who would have thought that Zhongli would turn the tables and rob them instead? He took their food. After eating and drinking his fill, Zhongli had another idea. Suddenly, a figure quickly approaches. The dark surroundings lead them to mistakenly think that Jiang Lin is carrying a heavy package. The ambushers barely got halfway through their slogan before their legs started trembling. It was only then that they saw Jiang Li holding a mountain wolf. And in this chaotic world, there are always those who rob others on the road. One of them wields a knife, while the other has a fork. They stare intently at the dimly lit deer. Jiang Li merely remarked calmly, and the troll was strangely pinned in place. Then, borrowing the girl's knife, a blinding light burst forth. The gibbon has met its end. The girl's sharp strikes were nothing more than a tickle to the mountain demon. But his attack also enraged the troll. With a swing, the chief sent the girl flying. She no longer had the strength to fight such petty skirmishes. The villagers of Xia Shan pooled together 15 taels of silver to hire Jiang Li to slay the long-armed ape. But when he arrived, he found a girl in red already battling the ape. Demons don't have the complex martial arts of humans. They only possess immense strength. He is the supreme leader of Lingxu Mountain. Today, before his master passes away, he is instructed to descend the mountain and find the silver-eyed demon's Qilin, and end this chaotic era. The world is in chaos. Demons are emerging endlessly. He was born as the crane spreads its wings and flies high. He grew up under the protection of the dragon. The corpse king of 1,000 years sees him as his nemesis. The possessed old Taoist runs away when he sees him. His name is Jiang Li.